Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So this video is going to be all about my 5-star predictions, all of the books that I feel like I'm going to give 5 stars to. Now, does this always work out? Am I always right? Am I Nostradamus? Am I able to predict very clearly like which books I'm going to give 5 stars or which books I'm going to give 3 stars or which books I should probably avoid? No. Sometimes I read a book and I'm like, I might like this, I might not. And then it ends up being a new favorite. I'm like, oh, okay. It's a pleasant surprise. Other times I go into a book, I'm fairly confident that I'm going to love it, and then I don't. But, for these books, I do feel like I'm going to give them 5 stars. Some of them I'm more confident in, like some of them are like almost guaranteed I'm going to give 5 stars to, if not maybe 4.5 if I have like a slight problem with them. But for the most part, I'm very excited for all of these books, and I do anticipate them being new favorites of mine. So, yes, I do predict all of these books will be 5 stars. Will that be the case? Probably not, but it'll be fun to find out anyway. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. And the way I'm going to structure this video is I'm going to start out with the books that I'm the least confident about, books that I'm more hopeful that I will give 5 stars to, and then we'll end the video with a few books that I'm like extremely confident that I'm going to give 5 stars. If I don't give those books 5 stars, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell me. But yeah, I'm going to start out with some books that I do think I'm going to really enjoy. I do hope that I give 5 stars to, but if I don't, oh well. But the first book I'm going to mention here is Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Now, I've heard of this book before. I've heard, it's extremely long, and I've heard things that it's like very hard to get into because of all of the end notes at the back of the book. There's like hundreds of pages of footnotes and end notes. And that always kind of deterred me from picking up the book. But my good buddy Pete from the Ponderings of Pete, he's been reading this book for the past month or so, maybe even a little bit longer. And even though it's been taking him a while to read it, he has been enjoying it. And the way he described it to me is that while it is dark, it's also very comical at times. So it's kind of like a dark comedy, which that's my favorite kind of comedy. I didn't know this was supposed to be like a comedic book at all. So right when he said that, I was like, oh, might as well pick it up and try it for myself. And yeah, I'm very excited for it now. I'm going to try to dip my toes into it in April this month, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to finish it this month, but I'll definitely see how it is. And I am very excited because, like I said, I'm all about dark comedy. And yeah, I'm very excited to give this a shot. Hopefully Pete has not cursed me. Alright, the next book I have to talk about is a horror novel called The Patience of a Dead Man by Michael Clark. This comes highly recommended to me from Sharon Dwyer. Sharon Dwyer loves this book. She loves this trilogy. I'm not quite sure what the trilogy is called, but it's a horror trilogy. And it's supposed to be like an interesting take on the haunted house trope. And I'm very excited for it. I really need to get back into reading more horror. And yes, I am very excited. I know Sharon loves this series, and she's been trying to get me to read this book and the trilogy for a while now, so I am eventually going to get to it. And the way she describes it, it is very creepy and very interesting character works, and it also has non-linear timelines with the jumping back and forth between different dates and time, which is a trope that I really like. Or maybe it's not a trope, but it's something. But I really like when books do that. So this book already has a lot going for it. So I do think I am going to love this book. And I do predict 5 stars. Another book I'm very excited for that I predict 5 stars for as well is The Dry by Jane Harper. Now this, I think, is supposed to be like a very dark thriller book, and I typically love dark thriller books, but at the same time, thrillers can be kind of hit or miss, especially if you get into it and it's either too predictable or you get to the ending and the ending doesn't stick the landing. So really, thrillers are kind of the hardest ones to predict. Also, another reason why is because I typically try to go into thrillers not knowing a lot about it. Maybe you know the general premise, but you don't know like specific plot points. So it's really hard to even know what the book is about going into it. And then you get into it and you're like, okay, maybe I'll like this, maybe I won't. So it is hard to predict at times. But for this one, I do know that this is like a famous thriller writer and that she's known for having like very dark and intense scenes, which I tend to like in my thrillers. So I'm hoping that this will end up being a new favorite of mine. But again, it's at the beginning of this video, so I am less confident about this book than some of the other books that I'll get to later in the video. But yes, I am. Either way, I'm still very excited, and even if I don't give it 5 stars, I still hope to really enjoy it, but I do predict 5 stars for this one. Next book I have to talk about is a fantasy by one of my new favorite fantasy authors. I'm actually going to be reading this book in May. Very excited. And that would be Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. Now, I've read his other trilogy, his other fantasy trilogy, the Divine Cities trilogy. How many times can I say trilogy in this video? But yes, that series was great, especially the first book, City of Miracles, was a 5-star read, one of my all-time favorite fantasy books. And then books 2 and 3, while they didn't live up to book 1, they were still great, and they were both 4-star reads for me. That trilogy was awesome, and I'm very excited to jump into this one. I'm buddy reading it with Stacy. She's read the first book, and she really liked it, and she hasn't read book 2, so that'll be fun to buddy read that with her as well. And we're doing it like a couple months before the release of the 3rd book, so hopefully I end up liking it and we can read the whole trilogy together. And yeah, I'm very excited. I really like his writing style. I really like the humor that he brings into his stories. And apparently that's supposed to be very present in this trilogy, and it's supposed to have a very cool kind of like Sanderson-like magic system, which also intrigues me. So yes, I all of that concocted together, I believe this will be another 5-star fantasy read for me. Hopefully. I have another fantasy series to talk about, and that would be Song of the Shattered Sand series, which I've read the first 4 books and 1 novella. And I still have to read book 5, When the Jackals Storm the Walls, and book 6, A Desert Torn Asunder. And then there's a spattering of other novellas that I bought a few months ago or a month ago. Can't remember, but I have those to read as well. And it's one of my all-time favorite fantasy series. The first 2 books I did give 5 stars. And then books 3 and 4, I gave 4.5 stars. I hope that he'll stick the landing with these last 2 books. Hopefully, I am very hopeful, and I'm very confident too, because like I said, you know, the first 2 books are 5 stars, 3 and 4 were almost 5 stars. They were 4.5 stars. I really hope he will stick the landing. I'm probably not going to get to these books anytime soon, though, like I was hoping to at the beginning of this year, just because I think it's been like 5 months since I've read book 4. And I think at this point, I'm probably just going to wait and just reread and binge the series later on this year. I think after I finish Dark Tower, I might just start reading 1 book a month again. And then in between, I'll add in the novellas. So if anyone's interested in that read-along, that would be fun to do for the channel. Because, like I said, one of my all-time favorite fantasy series. And yes, I do predict that both of these books will be 5 stars. Very hopeful, and I actually am very confident because I do trust this author to stick the landing. Another book that I'm very confident that I will give 5 stars is Falling Over Sideways by Jordan Sonnenblick. And you might recognize that name because he's the author of one of my all-time favorite books, Drums, Girls, and Dangerous Pie. He writes a lot of middle grade fiction, and a lot of his main characters, his middle grade students, are musicians. And I'm pretty sure this whoever is in this book is going to be a saxophone player. And that'll be fun. His books have had drummers, guitarists, and now saxophone. With saxophone, even though I love drums and guitars, obviously, saxophone has always been one of my favorite instruments. And funny enough, when I was in middle school, I've told some of my friends this before, but when I was in middle school, I originally tried out for saxophone because I thought it was really cool. And it didn't work out, and they were like, why don't you try drums? And I was like, all right. And here we are now. But yes, it'll be fun to dive into this. It's a middle grade book, so it'll just take me like a couple hours to read. But yeah, I'm almost positive that I'm going to give this 5 stars. I love Jordan's writing style. I love his characters. And yeah, I think it'll be a fun time. 5 stars. Speaking of music, I often will give books about music or books that pertain to music 5 stars. So it's no surprise that I would probably give this book 5 stars, but we'll have to wait and see, obviously. And that would be the final revival of Opal and Nev. I always forget what this book is about exactly, but I know it's about music, and that's all I need to know. Let's see. Opal is a fiercely independent young woman pushing against the grain in her style and attitude. A black punk artist before her time. Yeah, I'm going to love this book. So, yeah, I really don't know too much about it other than what I just read there. All I need to know is that it's about music, and it's about someone going against the grain of, like, where they should probably be in music. Or I probably said that wrong, but, like, where people would expect her to be, right? You know, people often get labeled like, oh, if you're this kind of person or if you're this ethnicity, you should probably be doing something like this, or you should be listening and playing to music like this. Whereas this book, I can already tell, like, they're going to, like, stretch the boundaries of, like, no, I can do whatever the hell I want, which I love, especially in musical terms. So, yes, I do think I'm really going to enjoy this book, and I definitely predict 5 stars for it. All right, these last 3 books, if I don't give them 5 stars, I don't know myself. I have become a new person. I don't know who I am any longer. I need to do a lot of soul searching. Okay, weird interlude aside. Yeah, these last 3 books, I'm fairly confident that I'm going to give 5 stars to. And the first one should be no surprise. It's Dawn Shard by Brandon Sanderson. It's a Stormlight Archive novella. I've yet to read this, even though I think you're technically supposed to read it before book 4. Oh well. But I think I'm actually going to love this book, or this novella. I'm definitely going to like it better than the Lift one. What was that called? Edge Dancer. Yeah. I think I'm going to like it better than Edge Dancer. I'm not a huge fan of Lift. I don't hate her, but she's not great. But this one has another character, which I don't know if it's a spoiler to mention their name or not. I don't know. It's Lopin. I love Lopin. He's one of my all-time favorite Stormlight characters. He's just a great comic relief character, and apparently he's heavily into this book. So I know I'm going to have a great time with this book. And it's Stormlight, and it's Sanderson. So, yeah, 5 stars. If I don't give this book 5 stars, I don't know what to do. All right, the next book I have to talk about is one of my all-time favorite writers. She has written so many great books. I think I've read 7 of her books now. 6 of them I've given 5 stars to, and then the other one was 4.5 stars. So yeah, very good track record of me enjoying her books. And I'm very excited to continue reading all of her older stuff, including this book, The House We Grew Up In, by Lisa Jewell. Like I've said, I've read many of her books. Many of them I've given 5 stars to. I love her writing style. I love how she introduces characters. I love the nonlinear timelines that she does. I love the structure of her books. I love the atmosphere she creates. Just, I could go on and on, but I love her books, and I'm sure I will love this book as well. And again, I don't really know anything about it. All I know is that it's Lisa Jewell, and I'm going to read it, and I'm probably going to love it. But you never know. It could be a terrible book. Probably not, but we'll see. I think I'm going to give it 5 stars. I think I'm going to have a great time. And yes, I love Lisa Jewell. And finally, the last book for the video. If I don't give this book 5 stars, like, what am I even doing? Like, this is like my identity here. Like, this is me. I'm getting real here, y'all. I'm fucking with y'all, but the last book that I have to talk about that I'm like 100% guaranteed to give 5 stars to. It's a book that I said I was going to read in March, but I just didn't get to it because I didn't have enough time, but I do plan on reading it sometime this year. And that would be Led Zeppelin, The Biography. Yes, Led Zeppelin, my all-time favorite band. And yes, we got a brand new biography. I'm sure there's going to be stuff that I already know in here, but I'm hoping that there's going to be even more stuff to unpack with my favorite band and to learn even more new stuff. And yeah, I'm going to have a great time with this book. I'm going to give it 5 stars. I know I'm going to love it, so no real surprise here. Yeah. It's not a 5-star prediction. It's a 5-star guarantee. Yes. Signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours. It's not a Zeppelin song, but I'm sticking to it. Alright, those are all of my 5-star predictions for this video. I'm sure there's more that I could have come up with, but those are like the main ones. And definitely those last few are like the books that I almost guarantee I'm going to give 5 stars to. And the ones at the beginning, maybe I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to give them 5 stars, but I'm very hopeful and I'm very excited to read all of these books. And please let me know what you thought of this video down below in the comments. And let me know if you're also interested in reading any of these books. I know I am. Let me know what you thought of these books. And also let me know what books you're excited about that you think you're going to give 5 stars to down in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and the Book Astronomer Discord. And if you'd like to further support me, go check out my Patreon page and see what that's all about. But anyway, thank you so much for watching and have a terrific day.